Welcome to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Pappert, your host. You know, the ride just never seems to end. This week, we've got a new globalist running as an independent candidate to try to bleed votes away from Trump. We'll be talking about the newest 5 or so guys and the trail of bodies the Clintons seem to leave in their wake. And we've got more startling evidence that Hillary Clinton is in shockingly bad health. But first, we need to talk about Snopes, the internet's favorite, totally accurate, completely nonpartisan, apolitical fact checker. You know, whenever I post a harsh truth on Facebook or Twitter, it seems as though there's always some loser with an I'm with her profile picture who takes the opportunity to say, Snopes proved it wrong, as if Snopes is some infallible, all-knowing source of wisdom and information. Now, the problem is, Snopes keeps getting it wrong, over and over. They've built this reputation of being above politics, and yet in the last month alone, they've been proven false at least twice. First time, well, during the first day of the DNC in Philadelphia, the Democrats only briefly had flags on stage. They brought the flags out for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then they ushered them away immediately after the pledge was done. Everybody in the conservative and alt-right media reported it, and many noted the shocking difference between the 10 or more flags at the RNC and the Orwellian appearance of the DNC. So how did Snopes report this? Well, they took a screenshot from the Pledge of Allegiance and said that everybody in the conservative and alt-right media lied. And people went around sharing the Snopes article as though it were gospel, when they were caught in a verifiable lie. And the second time, a little bit more recent even. Well, the fact recently came out that Obama funneled $400 million to Iran, many believe, in exchange for hostages. And Snopes denied it. Snopes quoted heavily, almost completely, from the United States State Department's Jack Kirby. Quoting Kirby, "The negotiations over the arms deal settlement were completely different from discussing about returning our American citizens home. Not only were the two negotiations separate, they were conducted by different teams on each side. And that's well and good, except there's another side to the story, and Snopes is not acknowledging it. The fact is, the Iranians saw things differently, and I'd say their opinion, their take on events, matters, considering they're the ones who got the money." Iran's Fars news agency reported the following quote by leader of Iran's Basij militia, Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Nadik. "The annulment of sanctions against Iran's bank SEPA and reclaiming of $1.7 billion of Iran's frozen assets after 36 years showed that the U.S. doesn't understand anything but the language of force. This money was returned for the freedom of the U.S. spy," he said, referring to the release of U.S. Marine Amir Hekmati. So, Iran's military and official news agency says the $400 million was a ransom, but the State Department said it wasn't. And instead of reporting both sides, both different views from two vested parties, Snopes quoted directly from the State Department and declared the myth busted. Sad. And a little further back, this time just in June, in the South Carolina nightclub shooting that was thwarted by a man legally carrying a weapon, the perpetrator fired into a crowd of people, and luckily he was taken down by a private citizen exercising his constitutional right to carry. Mass shooting averted, right? Well, not according to Snopes. You see, according to Snopes, it wasn't a mass shooting because there's no proof that the shooter wanted to kill multiple people. Firing wildly into a crowded nightclub. Nah, that's not a mass shooting. Another myth busted by Snopes. So, is it a recent phenomenon? Is Snopes getting lazy? Or maybe they've got a new researcher, a new hack who's not up on the ball yet? Well, let's look at this totally accurate reporting from 2008 for the answer. If you've been hanging around the internet long enough, you may remember the State Farm agent in Louisiana who added a political sign to his usual State Farm advertisement. The sign was located directly above his sign, and it said, "A taxpayer voting for Barack Obama is like a chicken voting for Colonel Sanders." Humorous, cute, funny, right? Well, Snopes alleged in its article about the event that the sign was only up for a short while until State Farm contacted the individual agent and forced him to remove it. Wow. Except, that agent never heard from State Farm. Nobody made him take the sign down, and after seeing the Snopes article written about him, he wanted to set the record straight. So he called the operators of Snopes, and he left a message explaining the situation and offering an interview so they could correct the record on the matter. Snopes never took him up on the record, never took him up on the offer. They never contacted him. They never contacted State Farm. You can still see the article today, and it still has the same inaccuracies going on 8 years. Now, this may be a little bit counterproductive suggestion for a show broadcast both on traditional television and the internet, but people, check the damn sources. Whenever I post a video where I feel some incendiary claim might have been made, I always list the sources on my website, thehonestmedia.com. When I quote from articles during my show, I usually like to say who wrote them. All you have to do is read my sources or Google what I say, and you too can be informed. Now, if no sources are offered by somebody other than me, or if I forget, well, Google a couple words. You'll find it. It's that easy. And nobody is without a bias. If somebody claims they have no bias, they're apolitical, they are lying. And you should immediately stop trusting them and find a new, less dishonest source of information. The best you can hope for is somebody who readily admits they have a bias and tries not to let it cloud the reporting. So when Snopes calls itself apolitical and suggests they're truly nonpartisan, big red flag. Take their articles with a heaping helping of salt. I'm Tom Papper for The Honest Media. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Papert, here with my co-host Craig Chrysler, and first story, shocking news, not that shocking if you're in the know, but beginning of the week, Evan McMuffin, independent candidate, launches presidential bid. And this guy is a former CIA Goldman Sachs shill whose name sounds like Egg McMuffin, and I can't get over that fact. But this just really shows how desperate they are, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're super desperate to keep Trump out, and I don't know if he's the CIA has him doing this, or the banks have him doing this, or just the globalist.
Yeah, in general. Well, let's think about this. The globalists, they do. They are globalists, but Goldman Sachs funds Hillary Clinton. They funded Jeb Bush. They gave some money to Ted Cruz in the form of unsecured loans. They gave money to about every single Republican, every single Democrat out there.
Yeah.
None of those people got the nomination. It's Trump, the guy who funded his entire primary campaign out of pocket and with small donations from regular people. So they don't have a candidate. And with some of the health issues we're going to talk about in the next segment, it's looking more and more likely like Hillary Clinton's presidency not going to be so good.
Yeah, it's looking bad for her. She could have all sorts of stuff.
And so what they really, because she can't campaign, is basically what that means. They'll prop her up like nobody's business.
She can't even do a debate without having to leave for 10 minutes.
Right. And then you've got doctors who are very close to her and insiders who are very close to her who say, well, that's because she flare up.
Well, she had the accident where she fell and busted her head several years ago.
Right, and ever since then, she just, I know she's 69 years old, people get frail when they get old, but she's not doing well.
Yeah. Well, she had a major blood clot or something in her head.
Yeah.
She's probably had multiple strokes.
And so,
but back to this guy, not only Goldman Sachs, but the CIA's almost always had their hand in the presidential candidate.
That's
George
right.
Bush
Bill
was
Clinton.
the head of the CIA. The director of the CIA, Bill Clinton, involved in the CIA with all of his drug running.
That's right.
Boy Bush, his dad was the head of the CIA, and then Obama has multiple ties to the CIA as a younger person throughout his whole life, apparently. So,
well, the last one who really wasn't, to my knowledge, maybe somebody will correct us in the comments, but the last one who wasn't direct CIA was Reagan. And everybody knows that's why they forced Bush on him.
Well, yeah. And when he wasn't playing ball, they gave him a dose of Act Right.
Right. That's a good point. And we talked about before we started recording, there is no way conceivably possible Egg McMuffin can win. It's not going to happen. I mean, it was somewhere, I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere between 11 and 20 states. He's not going to be on the ballot because the date already passed. Independent candidates don't get ballot access after a certain date. Because, it's government. They move slow. They got to print the ballots. They got to ship them from place to place. They got to rig the polling machines. It's slow business for the government. And so all this guy is going to do, he's going to get on the ballot in some ultra-conservative states where there are hard right-wing social right-wingers who do not like gay marriage, do not like the fact that Trump says, I don't care what bathroom you use, do not like all these things that Trump is for, do not like the 3 exceptions for abortion. And this guy is going to come out and say, I'm the other choice for you, the hard right conservatives who claim they're so principled. And all it's going to do is, if they're lucky, if their plan works, he'll just steal a couple votes in the Electoral College from Trump.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do. Heck, this guy was probably put in by Hillary, more than likely.
I wouldn't doubt. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting.
It's probably her campaign's plan. They put this guy in.
Well, she can't campaign, so get this guy to do
it.
It's kind of like Gary Johnson, and we talked about this in one of our internet-exclusive videos on Friday. The conservatives, the true conservatives, really wanted Johnson to be a competing force in this whole thing.
Yeah.
They've given him tons of coverage in the media, never happened before for a libertarian candidate. They gave him tons and tons of town hall debates, never happened before for a libertarian candidate. And Johnson is doing all the right things. He picked a neocon, a gun-grabbing neoconservative, Obama-supporting former Republican, Bill Weld, for his VP. And I think what they're finding out is, not only is it not working to get the true conservatives, the conservatives, the Jeb Bush conservatives to Johnson's side, I think they're finding out that watering down libertarianism to the point where the 2 people leading the party aren't even real libertarians, nobody wants to vote for that ticket. And so what's the solution? Well, we got to get somebody to split the vote. Ed McMuffin.
Yeah. Well, the only people I've seen on the internet that are actually going for Johnson know absolutely nothing about libertarianism.
That's right. Or Johnson in general.
Yeah.
Maybe they're libertarians, but you sit there and say, well, what do you think?
Well, libertarian's been around for, it's been getting more popular and popular, but people don't know what it is. They just know the term.
Well, and what does Gary Johnson say?
So a libertarian, I'm going to vote for this guy.
And Gary Johnson says it's fiscal conservatism mixed with social modernism. That's not what libertarianism is. Libertarianism is, I don't care what you do, your right to do it ends when your fist meets my nose.
Yes.
That's libertarianism, not whatever Johnson goes on about. When he says, and this is what the globalists who thought that he was going to attract Republicans are really just morons. And that's why we got Evan McMullen, Egg McMuffin, because Johnson says things like, well, if you're a Christian, you should have to bake cakes for gay people. That's the country we live in. And then somebody changed the scenario. Okay, what if you're a Jewish person and a Nazi walks into your bakery and says, hey, put a picture of Adolf Hitler on there with swastikas all over and, my best...
Mein Führer.
There you go. And Johnson said, oh, contradiction. Yes, you should have to bake the Nazi cake. And then later, just a week or 2 ago, he said, well, I have to clarify. What I said is it's the law of the land that you should have to bake the cake, but you don't have to frost it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Like, what does that even mean?
You have rights as a business to do whatever to do and refuse business.
And that's libertarianism.
Yes.
None of this Johnson-esque neocon globalist nonsense.
Yeah.
And
open borders.
Right. Well, it's not open borders. We should just accept unlimited immigrants and make it really easy for them to come in legally.
God.
Like, yeah, okay, that's worked out really well.
They're trying to destroy the country.
Well, and they're doing it in the most despicable way, which is to say, we're the holy people. We're the moral people. We're the people who really care about America.
We need diversity.
That's right.
It's funny you never hear for diversity being called in China or Mexico or Africa. We need more diversity in China.
Or the New York subway system, where something like 92% of subway drivers, whatever you call it, are black. How come we don't need to diversify that? That's too much. Too
Yeah.
much of one thing is wrong. We need lots of different races driving in the subway
Apparently,
system.
only when there's a Caucasian minority do we need to thin it out.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Evil.
We'll be right back with the Honest Media. In the next segment, we're going to discuss Hillary Clinton's growing health issues and the growing cover-up. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Pappert here with Craig Chrysler, and we've all been hearing for months and months and months that Hillary Clinton is hiding something. Breitbart first said it, I want to say, in January of this year. They interviewed an expert who said she never recovered from her brain injury when she fell up the stairs. They say that she's got a brain clot or a blood clot in there that makes her confused, unable to take difficult situations. It makes her seize when prone to stress. And we've since seen her, when faced with a series of reporters, do incredibly bizarre facial expressions. People say, well, she's making a joke. Okay, I don't know about you, but when I make a joke, I can't make one eye stay still and the other one do bizarre things like I'm having a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just not a reptilian in a human suit. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And most recently, discovered by the legion of new media on Twitter, is this from the Ralph Report. Breaking. Hillary's handler, an African-American man who is always seen with her, helping her up the stairs, moving her around, carrying auto-injector syringe for anti-seizure drug diazepam. And you can see him at one point on the press conference stage, I think it's a rally, where a protester frazzled her. A bunch of Secret Service people come to the stage, and you can actually hear him say to her with the syringe nearby, you're going to be okay. We're going to get you through this. Like, jeez.
Yeah, that's really weird. And then she seizes up again, and he has to kick the Secret Service guys off stage, and he says, "Go ahead and talk now."
Right,
Yeah.
right. Because I think it became clear, what it is the condition says that when she has multiple people talking to her, when it's a stressful situation, she can't handle the stress. And it basically makes her have a minor seizure like that.
Yeah, like when she was getting interviewed outside of Starbucks or something, all them ladies, and she just totally wigs out.
And
when I saw that, I was like, what in the hell is this?
And everybody says that, well, you people in the conservative media, you're doing the same thing that you criticize people doing to Trump. She was taking a bag like, oh, yeah, right. But if you look at the at the reporter's face, the reporter is like,
yeah, I saw
what
that.
is happening?
Yeah.
What is going on here? So I think that's disingenuous, to say the least.
Yeah, and then she tries to pass it off on the coffee or something.
Right? She makes
Have you
a
tried
joke about the coffee. Yeah, have you tried the coffee? And then she does it again, though.
Yeah, she tries to stop and smile, and it keeps going.
Right. And this all goes back to her mysterious bathroom break. Way back in the debate with Bernie Sanders, where people were saying after that she got off the stage, she couldn't stand, they had to inject her with a bunch of drugs to get her back out there, and that's what the real weight was, according to numerous doctors who, for good reason, want to remain anonymous.
Well, there's lots of reports that she has the signs of Parkinson's disease.
Right, that's a new theory, that she's got the early onset showings of Parkinson's. And what another person said is, why is she using diazepam? That's not what you recommend as a doctor for this situation. And that tells me, well, we know of her diagnosed conditions. We don't know of all the various things that she hides from us.
Yeah, this is probably a drug addiction, and it's after you've been on it for a long time, it's really hard to get off. And one of the symptoms of coming off of diazepam is seizures, which I was reading from that, the book with the Secret Service guy wrote.
Right, Burns.
You gave to me.
It's
that they would give her chill pills when Clinton was in office because she'd get so worked up. They were giving her chill pills, and
That's right.
what's a chill pill? Diazepam. So she's probably been taking these for 20-some years.
Well, that's right. He was her Secret Service detail, and it's killing me. What character, something about
Crisis character?
Crisis in Character.
Yeah.
That's right. By Byrne, the former Secret Service guy. He was in the armed Secret Service. One of the people who would have to attempt to follow Bill Clinton around as he went on his jogs and saw Hillary up close and personal. And that's right. He did. And so that would have been in the early mid '90s, and she's been taking these for whatever reason since the mid '90s. Maybe she's trying to kick it because when you get to be 70 years old, you can't keep up on the old addictions. That could be causing problems.
Yeah, and it only takes 4 months of diazepam use to become bodily dependent on it.
Well, and there have been people, aside from the diazepam, which maybe that is a cause of a lot of problems, maybe that's her way of trying to treat a lot of the problems, we don't know. But aside from that, there have been numerous reports from law enforcement professionals who don't even know each other from completely different cities who say after a rally, after a speech, Hillary Clinton will come out, get off stage, and she'll have to immediately sit down and rest for up to 40 minutes before they can walk her to her car. I mean, clearly they're hiding something.
Yeah, she apparently has some really big issues, either stemming from drug use or that fall, which caused a blood clot, and apparently she's probably had a stroke or two.
Well, and people say it could be post-concussion syndrome, where the person, again, you can't handle stress, you can't handle situations where you've got 5 different people coming at you.
Which would why she would be on the diazepam.
Right. Well, which is still an antiquated
and to have
drug.
It injectable, I mean, that's pretty serious.
And they literally found, what it is first you see it, this guy is holding something in his hand. And I'll be honest, I thought they were doing the circle below the waist thing. I thought it was like a Rickroll. You looked. But no, if you look, the guy has it in his hand, clutched tight, and it looks like some kind of pin. And you keep zooming in on it, and it's like, that's not a pin. And people have actually found the website where you can go and buy these things for personal use or whatever. Yeah, it's on the FDA's official website.
And the fact that this guy's following her around everywhere is pretty strange in the first place. He's not Secret Service. He has an ID badge with medical insignias on it, and has been seen with the medical insignia on his suit jacket. Yeah, pins of it. And he follows her everywhere, so she evidently has some serious health problems.
And they hide and they obfuscate. It's like this woman is going to be president. This isn't the 1930s where you can just make us all believe that somebody's not confined to a wheelchair or whatever.
Yeah.
This is 2016. People are finding this stuff out just on Twitter. You take you take a picture, people dissect the picture. You see Hillary needing help from 2 people to get upstairs, and people dissect that, and it turns out it's the same guy. I mean, it's really hard to hide these things. If Trump were this ill, the liberals would be talking about it non-stop.
Yeah.
How can he be president if he's so frail?
And the fact that she's done absolutely 0 press conferences, because what she did the other day was not a press conference, shows that she cannot handle being asked questions by people.
And so what's going to happen when it's Putin and it's al-Bashir and it's the guy from Israel, it's Netanyahu? I mean, when you've got these world powerful leaders all coming at you at once saying, Mrs. Clinton, we need this. Mrs. President, we need this. Mrs. President, how are you going to do this? Mrs. President, lift the sanctions. How is she going to deal with that pressure? Or is she going to do what she said she'll do with the economy, which she said, well, I'll let Bill handle it?
Yeah. Well, she's working for most of these people anyway. Let's not forget she sold 20% of the uranium reserves to Russia through the Clinton Foundation when she was Secretary of State. So she's working for Putin already.
Well, that's
seriously,
a good point. And that's a fair point. Except, I don't know, some people say that Putin leaking all the emails is his way of saying,
well, there's been no proof. There's been no proof that was Russia. That was probably the DNC staffer that wound up dead the other week.
And with that note, when we come back from the break, we're going to start talking about the 5 people connected to the Clintons in one way or another who have, in some fashion, suicide, murder, mysterious unknown cause, wound up dead in the past 6 weeks. We'll be right back. We're The Honest Media. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Pappert here with Craig Chrysler, and we said we'd do it at personal risk to our own well-being. We're going to talk about the Clinton body count. And this is from Freedom Outpost, quoted heavily from Heavy.com and ZeroHedge.com. The Clinton body count just went up to 5 in the past 6 weeks. Activist and Bernie Sanders supporter Sean Lucas is the latest person to line up alongside others in the Clinton body count. He is the 5th person who has been a threat to the Clintons to die in the past 6 weeks. Lucas, along with the filmmaker Ricardo Villaba, recently served papers to the Democratic National Committee's Service Corps and the former chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz with regard to a fraud class action lawsuit against the Democratic Party. The servings of the papers came before WikiLeaks released documents saying that prove the DNC was working against the Sanders campaign. However, on August 2nd, Lucas was found dead on his bathroom floor. And moving right along, his employer, Nico D. House, said, just to let everyone know, everyone with the DNC fraud suit filed in Florida tracking Sean Lucas's regretful passing, we have not spoken about this until we are sure what exactly happened. We will comment later how correlated his involvement with the case may or may not have been once we gather information. So this is the people closest to him saying they don't know his cause of death.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the next previous guy, Seth. Poor Seth, the DNC staffer who was working heavily with the campaign, who mysteriously got mugged, except none of his personal belongings were gone.
Who a lot of people are saying is the guy who probably leaked all them emails.
Allegedly, that's been said. Julian Assange came out and said any DNC staffer could have made the leaks. Well, he was a DNC staffer.
Yep.
And then you've got the former head of the United Nations General Assembly, who was tied to a Chinese donor of the Clintons and was set to be tried for bribery, was found dead in June. That's the guy who, remember, he was lifting weights, pumping iron, and dropped the barbell on his neck, crushed his windpipe, and he died.
Yeah.
How likely is that to happen?
Well, first they said he had a heart attack, too, and then they said he had a crushed larynx. So
really?
They couldn't even figure out what they wanted to say he died from.
And finally, you've got Joe Montano, which this one is like, how do these people keep dropping like flies? It makes no sense. Well, I have friends, they don't die like this. You have friends, Trump has friends, Trump knows lots of people. They don't just drop off like flies.
Especially people working for you.
Or with you, or with your new VP selection. Finally, Joe Montano, 47, a close aide to Senator Tim Kaine, and a prominent activist in the Washington area's Filipino-American community, died July 25th at his home in Falls Church, Virginia. Mysterious death. And this, in addition to the anti-Clinton author who mysteriously committed suicide, went up to a mountain at 4 in the morning and blew his brains out, eerily reminiscent of Vince Foster.
What's up with 4 in the morning? A lot of these people are dying at 4 in the morning. You
Well,
notice
you know,
that?
you're up at 4, you're depressed, and you go and you shoot yourself 5 times in the back of the head.
Or if somehow you're in a park and get beat up and shot several times.
In a mugging, except none of your personal belongings are gone, and
Nothing.
yeah. Just really bad luck these people have. Something about Democrats connected to the Clintons, you know? It's like stepping under a ladder, seeing a black cat walk in front of you, and breaking a mirror all within 30 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
And it's nothing new.
Yeah, it's nothing new.
That's the thing. None of this would be even remotely plausible if not for the fact that this has been happening with the Clintons since, what, the 80s is when it started?
Yeah, what's that list? There's some website or something that keeps track of all
Just
the...
every single mysterious death. And it's over 100.
Yeah, it's over
100 people have died.
that have had involvement with the Clintons.
And it's suicide, it's an accident, it's unknown, mysterious natural causes.
Some of them getting ran over by a train.
Some of them get run over. The woman who ratted on Monica Lewinsky, I believe, I may be getting my facts a little bit blurred here, she was gunned down in a coffee shop, execution mafia style.
Well, to quote some CIA guy I listened to years and years ago talking about this stuff, he said there is no coincidences. So,
Well, Burns said in his book, Crisis of Character, when he was first doing Secret Service detail at the Clinton rallies, he talked to a law enforcement, a sheriff, I want to say, in Arkansas, and the guy just looked at him deadpan after he asked if what they hear is true, and he said, everything you've heard is true.
mm-hmm.
And that was when in the early 90s, it was probably the drug running, the mysterious people disappearing.
Was working with the CIA,
the cheating,
running cocaine.
And it's only getting worse.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine, you watch Clinton Cash, you probably know the number better than me, but they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
They have a wake that's full of dead people
Mm-hmm.
and broken countries, destroyed countries.
Oh, yeah.
They're a gang that's been able to sell state power in exchange for bribes.
Yeah, somehow they've been allowed to rise up to be probably the biggest criminal family in the world, besides like the Rothschilds or somebody. But yeah, they've been given carte blanche to do whatever they want and get away with it for the past, since old Billy became governor.
Well, and even before that,
Yeah.
I mean, Bill raped his first woman when he was in the Rhodes Scholarship Program. And
There's reports that somehow he was connected with the CIA even back then.
Well, how does somebody with the not so stunning intellect of Bill get accepted into the Rhodes Scholarship Program? You might be onto something there. The thing is, they're still doing it. They both look so bad. It makes you wonder if they're delusional, if it's somebody else pulling the strings behind their back.
Probably so.
I watched Bill at the DNC when he did his speech, and the man was shaking. I mean, it's probably just old age, but it's like the man is shaking.
Was it?
And so he's just like...
Well, that's also another sign of Parkinson's, or if they both do really have syphilis, which attacks your brain and makes you go insane. And him up there wandering around playing with frickin' balloons like he was high out of his mind. If you saw him, they both probably are completely drugged and being controlled by somebody else.
Well, and I talked about this last week, and then we'll go to break. But and this is how I always want to call Chelsea Monica. There's some kind of weird thing in my brain. The wire is just Chelsea Monica. What's the difference? But at this point, really, what difference does it make? So you get Chelsea Clinton when she introduced her mother. I was sitting there watching it like, what is the matter with her? Is she stoned? Is she drunk? Because this is how she introduced her mother. Maybe she was trying to sound like Ivanka, very smooth and pleasing to listen to, but it sounded like a meltdown. No, a short circuit.
Short circuit.
We will be right back after the break. Welcome back to The Honest Media. I'm Tom Pappert here with Craig Chrysler, and we're talking about the mysterious deaths, the unfortunate suicides, the gangster mafia execution style deaths of people who seem to know the Clintons. And this is from Zero Hedge. Lead attorney in anti-Clinton DNC fraud case mysteriously found dead. Call it a conspiracy theory, coincidence, or just bad luck. But anytime someone is in a position to bring down Hillary Clinton, they wind up dead. In fact, as we noted previously, there's a long list of Clinton-related body counts, with scores of people dying under mysterious circumstances. While Vince Foster remains the most infamous, the body count is starting to build ominously this election cycle. From the mysterious crushing his own throat death of a UN official, to the latest death of an attorney who served the DNC with a fraud suit. And this is already outdated almost. As Gateway pundit Jim Hoft reports, on July 3rd, 2016, Sean Lucas and filmmaker Ricardo Villaba served DNC Services Corps and chairperson Debbie Wasserman Schultz at the DNC's headquarters in D.C. Sean Lucas was thrilled about serving the papers, and then he wound up dead.
Which nobody's said what happened to him. Just found him dead on a bathroom floor or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And people want to know. They call people associated with him, and all they can say is, we don't know. And that's according to Snopes. And as I told you, you can't always trust Snopes. But according to Snopes, he was found dead on his bathroom floor by his girlfriend. The girlfriend called the police, and of course he was just pronounced dead on arrival. And this follows, again from Zero Hedge, this follows the death of 27-year-old Democratic staffer Seth Conrad Rich, who was murdered in Washington, D.C. on July 8th. The killer or killers appear to have taken nothing from their victim, leaving behind his wallet, watch, and cell phone. Shortly after the killing, Redditors and social media users were pursuing a lead, saying Rich was en route to the FBI the morning of his murder, apparently intending to speak to special agents in an ongoing court case possibly involving the Clintons.
Gosh, just...
And here's a little bit more details on all these people. Sean Lucas, again, Sanders supporter who served DNC papers, dead. Victor Thorne, the name I was struggling for in the last segment. Clinton author and Holocaust denier, maybe the least credible on the list. But he shot himself in an apparent suicide. Conspiracy theorists at Mystery Writers of America said some guys will do anything to sell books. Sad. John Ash, the UN official who allegedly crushed his own throat, and Mike Flynn, the big government editor for Breitbart News. Mike Flynn's final article was published the day he died. Clinton Cash, Bill and Hillary created their own Chinese foundation in 2014. Must just be a coinkydink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just completely coincidental.
And this is all in the past month?
This is all, 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
5 people in the last 6 weeks. And nobody talks about this.
Yeah.
Trump says, get that baby out of my rally, and it's all we hear about for 2 solid weeks. 5 people die in 6 weeks, all heavily connected with bringing down the Clintons.
Yeah, you ain't hearing none of this on Morning Joe or CNN or even Fox News. I think since that Bill Els guy's left, Fox News has taken a turn towards the left, too.
Well, and they'd already been, swerving left, let's say. But they had their holdouts. They had Megyn Kelly, who's basically an attractive Rachel Maddow. But they still had Sean Hannity, and they still had Bill O'Reilly, and O'Reilly was fine. But, I watched it the other night, and I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
I think they're really, really...
Well, and they just came out with a poll that has Trump, 15 points behind.
And then you look at the methodology. I haven't seen this exact poll, and we need to do a show. We did do a show just about this, but we need to do it again, because you look at the methodology of these polls, and it's always like a national poll conducted of 250 likely voters, 100 Democrats, 50 Republicans, and some independents. And it's like, how can that even be considered scientifically valid? I had a class in college that literally taught me how to dissect. I can't be the only one taking these basic level, entry level courses, that taught me how to look at a polling data, look at research data, and say, no, wait a minute, that's not enough people to make
Yeah, they're all skewed BS polls. Just look at her rallies. There's 20, 50 people at her rallies.
Literally dozens of people.
Yeah, literally dozens. And thousands at Trump rallies.
10,000
every
is like
day.
A small number for him now.
Every day, thousands.
Sometimes twice, 3 times.
And thousands outside waiting to get in. And there's 50 idiots at these Hillary rallies.
Well,
if you're a Hillary supporter at this point, you probably have a brain malfunction and you need to go get it checked out.
I'm telling you, they all have the hots for Bill.
Yeah. They probably
remember Bill from the 90s going on the TV and playing saxophone. And
that's probably the only people actually voting for her.
And I used to think I was being tongue-in-cheek and maybe a little sexist when I would say it, because I've said for months, the Democrats have the crazy cat lady vote. It's a party of, for, and by the crazy cat ladies. Well, then, in the WikiLeaks, you find out that they said that. They said the Democrats are going to win in 2016 because we have the old white single women.
Yep.
That's literally what they said. They could have just said cat lady and it would have been the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I can't get past the WikiLeaks.
Yeah, and
they're vindicating everything I've thought about.
After all of her lying, unless you've just been under a rock for the past 20 years or paid no attention to anything besides your cats, how in the hell would you vote for this woman? I
don't. Well,
and back to that death list, they've had so many people, apparent suicides, and they their hands are duct taped behind their back and feet and shot 3 times in the head, and the cops ruled a suicide.
Vince Foster.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the famous one, and that's a name that should never die.
Yeah.
He was what? He had his hands duct taped behind his back. He had his legs bound, I want to say. He was shot twice in the back of the head, or shot twice in the head.
I think so, yeah.
And found in a park. And there have now been people who say that there were carpet fibers on his pant legs as though he'd been dragged through a building.
Well, yeah, he was totally executed. I mean, they've had so many people killed now, it's not even a conspiracy
theory. And in the Secret
theory.
Service, it's like a joke, or it was. Burns said at one point when he was being forced to testify against the Clintons, he would say that his buddies would come up to him and be like, yeah, he's going to go on the Vince Foster patrol. He's going to have to go patrol the same park where Vince Foster died. And they'd like write notes on his locker and be tongue-in-cheek like that. But, you could tell by reading the book, the man was terrified with good reason. He had a bug-out bag for his wife to get and a secret undisclosed location for in case his wife needed to flee and where he would meet up with her. People who deal with the Clintons, they not only wind up dead, they're awfully worried about it.
Yeah. Unless you're giving them boatloads of cash, then you get whatever you want.
That's right. Like a certain Saudi Arabian prince who shall remain nameless.
Yeah. Or thousands of other people all over the world.
Oh, yeah. Or if you do little sweetheart deals like we talked about it before. Somebody wanted to sell 20% of the United States supply of uranium, the stuff that goes in bombs, to the Russians. Had to be approved through the State Department. And what's Hillary do? Oh, I don't think so. What? You want me to do a speech in Russia that's going to be paid for by the biggest Russian
Well,
bank?
she would have Bill. She'd have Bill go do the speeches while she's Secretary of State. Then, somehow all this stuff gets approved the next day.
Bill or why do I keep saying Monica?
Yeah.
Bill or Chelsea, who makes $600 or $900,000 a year to do a handful of public interest stories, feel-good stories for NBC News. Man, I want that job.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after the break. Thank you for joining us. Next will be our final segment. Welcome back to The Honest Media. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tom Pappert here with Craig Chrysler, and for those not in the know, Google really doesn't like Trump. You got to give it to Bing. At least they gave money to Rubio, so it was a conservative, kind of. But the first Google controversy happened when all of Trump's emails, anybody from the Trump campaign, the emails went directly to spam folders. And that was a couple months ago. Now, Google, they got some really bad publicity for that. They fixed it a little bit. The next thing that happened, in my mind, was when Alex Jones had a little showdown with whatever his name is, the Young Turk. And that was at the Republican National Convention. They met up, they sparred. Stank looked like a moron, a real idiot, and just exploded like a little kid who had a sucker taken away.
Alex Jones had that awesome picture of Clinton that said rape on it.
Right. But what does Sink do? He's YouTube. He's Young Terps is a YouTube, and that's why we're not strictly on YouTube. That's why we're our own platform. Because he is a YouTuber. That's what he does. That's who he gets his money from, YouTube. And so he goes over to the YouTube booth and he says, Alex Jones was mean to me. Please take down the videos. And they do. Yeah. They took down like 4 or 5 of Alex Jones's videos. And now, they complained about it. Everybody in the Twitter world, the alt-right Twitter world, complained about it. And they ended up reinstating the videos. The next thing that Google did, and this is just like a week or two ago at this point, is when you would type in presidential candidates in 2016, Hillary Clinton, Jill Stein, Gary Johnson. No Trump. Yeah. They didn't even list Trump as a presidential candidate. And that was complained about, and they had to come out and say, it was a bug, it was a glitch in the system, we've totally fixed it, it was a complete accident, not purpose.
Well, they were also caught skewing something for Hillary a while back ago. What was that?
Well, the newest thing, and this is like brand new, I'm pretty sure if you search it, it still happens. If you search, when is the presidential election 2016, Hillary Clinton's face comes up. And then if you do it that's if you do images, I think. And then if you do, no, that's if you do it on a desktop. If you do it via mobile, it pops up and it says Clinton Kane 2016.
Oh my God.
They're not even, they are very obviously showing that they are for the Clintons. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it a little bit.
Well, yeah, not only that, they're trying to program people's minds that she's already won it. Just go vote for her.
Yep.
It's already done, did.
It's just like the people who go around saying, Trump's going to drop out. He's totally going to drop out.
It's called programming. They're trying to program people's brains.
And it's just like what Lion Ted did to poor Ben Carson in Iowa. Ben Carson was looking good in Iowa. He's about tied with Ted. The moment he lifted up the plane lifted into the air for Ben to go to the next campaign event, everybody started saying, Ben Carson quits campaign, Ben Carson quits campaign.
I remember
Ted
that.
Cruz sent out mailers saying, vote for me, Ben Carson's out. I'm the true principled conservative. And it's the same exact thing. Like you say, it's called programming people. If you can create the illusion that the circumstances change, the people aren't going to vote Trump. But the thing is, with the internet nowadays, I know people are pretty dumb. You know, just on average, people aren't too smart.
A lot of cities in the U.S. serving fluoride in the water still.
Buy my filters. But that was my favorite meme about the Jones Sank thing. By the way, it was humble water filter salesman accosted by Armenian genocide denier. Perfect. But that. I think people are too smart for it now. Otherwise, you and me, we wouldn't have a gig here, because people can now, if they see something they don't quite believe, they go online, they look it up. That's how I first decided that Trump wasn't another globalist shill, because they started saying all this crap about him that couldn't possibly be true.
Yeah.
And then you look it up, and it's like, oh, you mean they literally changed a comma and changed THEY apostrophe RE to THEIR, and suddenly he's a racist. Maybe some of the other stuff I've heard isn't true.
Well, it's obviously he's not now the way they're really going after him. They got everybody going after him on every stupid thing you could even ever think of.
Oh yeah. And really, that's all the proof they need. You know, somebody pointed
He
out
said
to me
mean
recently,
things. He wants to ban Muslims coming in the country. Well, tell you what, in World War II, they not only did they ban all the Japanese coming to the country, they locked them all up. And what were basically
not just the Japanese,
in
the
prison
Italians
camps.
and the Germans, they did it to them too. And the Italians weren't even taken off once Italy was invaded.
We're
and under
at
Allied
war
control.
with radical Islam. You don't just let all these idiots come into the country from these places that.
But remember, the
happening
Islamic
at?
State in Syria and the Levant is not Islamic. Radical Islam has nothing to do with Islam, Craig. They kill Muslims too, therefore it doesn't count.
This Japanese guy isn't Japanese.
Oh, no.
Yes.
He's this island hates this island. It has nothing to do with the Japanese hating America. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you people are pathetic.
They really are. There's no hope for these people. They're completely and utterly pathetic. They think bringing in the people who say they hate us is the right, moral, religious, wonderful thing to do. And the fact is they want to kill us.
Yeah, you have to have serious problems if you think that's a good idea.
But remember, that's what makes Trump a big evil meanie. This has been The Honest Media. I'm Tom Pappert.
I'm Craig Chrysler.
We'll see you again next week, and make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, where you can find exclusive web videos that are a whole lot shorter and easier to digest. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.